I edit for a couple of big YouTubers, and I thought it would be interesting to go and make a video talking about how I got those relationships. So how I've built those relationships with big YouTubers, honestly, it's mostly just been applying for jobs that they've had on different websites. The reason I like editing for YouTubers is because the work is really consistent because you always have to put out content. So if you're an editor, I recommend that you try to connect with YouTubers. I don't know, documentaries and stuff, like, you can do that, but it's way less consistent than like social media work. If you're gonna go the route of cold emailing, you have to figure out how to make that personable somehow, stalking them on social media or reaching out to them in a really specific way, which is basically that I reach out to them through the guise of my YouTube journey and my podcast and stuff, and then that kind of leads to potentially doing work for them in the future. Because if you just reach out with a cold email and you're like, I can edit this at my rate, like they get like a bajillion of those, so they're probably going to ignore you or not even open it. So you're going to get lost in the ether. So you have to figure out a more personable way of reaching out to them in a more interesting way and trying to catch people when they're at like a good subscriber count. So like, you know, where they're kind of making money off of it, but they're not like super big, because if you reach out to a YouTuber that has 1 million subscribers, it's going to be really hard to get a hold of them. But if you reach out to one that's kind of up and coming, maybe like has like 100,000 to 500, you're way more likely. Last but not least, it's persistence. You have to be top of mind. I mean, you don't want to be annoying, but you kind of do want to be annoying, if that makes sense. Like, you want to just be constantly emailing them, commenting on their stuff, etc., etc. So like, you don't want to be, you do kind of want to pester them, to be real with you. It's if you don't do that, there's probably somebody that will do that. There's a line, right? Like, you don't want to go into creepy stalker mode, but like, you also want to be top of mind. So most of the time when I've gotten jobs for editing, it's because I've applied to something that they've just seen that I'm a freelancer and then ended up hiring me as a freelancer. So that's kind of happened a few times. A lot of these big YouTubers have big teams, so they're always looking for people. So that's the number one way that I've gotten connections with YouTubers. It's just applying stuff. Number two, you know, there's obviously like cold emailing and stuff like that, but I find that that's really hard because they probably get a bajillion emails saying like, I can edit for you, blah, blah. I get those emails, I guess, because I have like a production company. Like, people reach out to me asking to edit for me, but it's like random people and I don't know them. I kind of suffer through this thing that's been a blessing and a curse at the same time. That is, I'm perpetually cursed to be a freelancer, whether I want to or not. It just seems like a lot of times when I apply to something, they see my freelancing past and then they're like, oh, well, she's not going to take us serious. So that's been a little bit of a problem if I ever want like some stability. I don't know, maybe it's in my head, but I've had companies actually tell me that. I guess I'm just perpetually a freelancer or something, but I'm fine with it. But it's, if I ever did want to like commit to working at XYZ place, it's really hard for me to do that because they just look at my resume and they're like, why would you want to stay with us full time? I don't know if anybody's had experience with that, so if you had, just let me know. I don't want to say that all YouTubers are great to work with, but it's definitely a lot of work consistency when it comes to editing and shooting. So it's definitely good to know which ones of them are in your area and try to reach out and connect with them. Obviously, this is easier if you know them in person or if you meet them through some sort of network than just shooting a cold email.
Tasty.